Thank you very much, Jane, and thank you, UKIP, for inviting me to speak to you today. Now, I am the regional chairman for the South East of England for UKIP, but I tend to describe myself to people not as chairman, but as chief volunteer, because that's what we all are. Most of us in the room, we're volunteers. We're doing this because we want to. And apart from UKIP and saving Britain from the EU, my other great passion is education and making life better for young people. And so over the years, I've worked, as Jane said, I'm currently director of a group of independent schools. I've served as a local councillor, as governor of a state primary school. So voluntary work is nothing new to me either. And I make my living nowadays out of excellence in education and promoting that. And how many education secretaries over the years can say they've ever done that in their lives, I wonder. But we see the effect of state intervention in our school system right from the earliest stages, right from when children first attend school in the primary system. It's non-stop state intervention all the way through. It's the attitude that always government knows best, whether it's Town Hall or Whitehall. There's never an assumption that perhaps the parents might know best, or perhaps the teachers, the professionals who've done this job over the years, they might know best perhaps. No, it's always that the politicians or the civil servants must automatically know what's best. We saw just the other day a good example of this. I don't often get news of announcements of government policy from the Liberal Democrat conference, and I hope that I shan't for very much longer. But we saw earlier this week that they plan to spend an extra £600, this is clearly their way of plugging the hole in George Osborne's budgets, an extra £600 million a year on giving free school meals to people who've previously been assessed as financially not being in need of them. It's just ludicrous. You couldn't make something like that up. That's merely the latest in a series of such things. On a more serious note, in many cities, particularly London, and even in the home counties as well, but particularly in cities, we see a major shortage of school places, particularly in primary schools. And this didn't happen overnight. It's been a gradual trend over the course of particularly the last 10 years. And this trend has come about, again, particularly in London and some of our other cities, through, guess what, uncontrolled immigration, which has caused that shortage of places. Now, if you speak to anyone at your local education authority or any of the councillors from other parties who sit on education committees, you'll never hear them admitting this. You'll never hear them say, oh, well, you know, there's far more people who've come into the area from other countries, from hundreds and hundreds of miles away. No, you'll never get them admitting that because somehow that doesn't fit their ethos. It doesn't fit their perception of what should be wrong, and therefore they ignore it. They pretend the problem isn't happening. We even see widespread government intervention in school admissions. Last month, there was a good example of this, when the school's adjudicator, that's a wonderful job if ever there was one, the school's adjudicator told top-performing state school, the London Oratory School, that it was unfair, even as a denominational Catholic school, it was unfair for them to give preference to applications from families of active Catholics. That a denominational school was somehow being unfair in admitting active Catholics. Now, I'm not an active Catholic, but I must say I see nothing wrong with those who are wanting to send their children to a school which is run with that ethos. And that's something that we ought to be encouraging and that we ought to be sticking up for. Now, UKIP as a party is the only party which sticks up for perhaps the greatest success in school-age education, which is the 164 remaining grammar schools in this country. Now, I myself went to a grammar school. My two brothers went to a grammar school, the same one. My parents both went to grammar schools. In each case, it's been the springboard which has enabled each of us in the family to go on to greater successes in life. And I'm certainly profoundly grateful to have had that opportunity. But what a shame it is that out of the thousands upon thousands of schools in this country, so few children are being allowed that opportunity to excel, to succeed, to show what they're capable of, and to thrive in the right environment for their skills and talents. And what's got in the way? There used to be grammar schools. There used to be thousands of grammar schools, in fact, so that many millions of children over the years have lost out over the last 40 years on that opportunity. What we've seen is a privileged Westminster elite destroying the chances of generation after generation of children simply because it didn't tick the right boxes for them with their ideological prejudices. How blinkered is that? Now, of course, it isn't only politicians from the left who see grammar schools as somehow a threat to their ideological prejudices. A few months ago, we had the example of how many people in the room have ever heard of Conservative backbench MP Jesse Norman? No, me neither. Anyway, a few months ago, he'd been appointed to something by David Cameron, and he commented on how only Eton, where coincidentally he also went, as well as David Cameron, had a tradition of public service. And he was roundly abused for this. But this evidently came as a surprise to him, to imagine that people could object to such a statement. Clearly he felt that the tradition of public service meant that Etonians could expect to run everything by divine right, as is clearly the ethos which many of them have. Now, any oversubscribed school in the country, whether it's a primary school or a secondary school or any school, if it's oversubscribed, there are more people who want to go there than there are places, then you can squeeze chairs into the room. By default, it has to be selective in some way or other. It has to. So you can either have selection by house prices, in other words, parents all crowd to live as close to the school as possible to maximise the chance of their child getting in. So you get selection by house price, or you can have selection on merit, on academic ability, on the child's aptitude, and of whether they would flourish in that sort of environment. And I know which of those systems I prefer. I prefer selection on merit. Now, the other parties, Labour, Liberal Democrats, Conservatives, they all of them, in different ways, have a hatred of meritocracy, but for the same reason, which is that it represents a threat to the establishment. They all have their own ways of doing things, and if meritocracy means that any old pleb, to coin a phrase, can come up through the ranks and challenge them, they're all against that. They don't want to know. And it's only UKIP which stands up for everybody's right to have a chance in life. To have a chance to be educated to the best of their ability and to do what's best for them. You know how it is with the lefties in particular, that everything must be either compulsory or forbidden in life, whatever it is. Now, we in UKIP, we don't have that. We are an egalitarian party and we are a libertarian party, and it's much more about the individual and doing what's best for the individual so that they have their chance in life. And that's why I'm here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger. And we come to our second speaker on education, our Deputy Leader, Paul Nuttall. Paul also has a degree in history and is also a former university lecturer at the Hugh Baird College and at Liverpool Hope University. I give you Paul Nuttall.
Good afternoon, conference. It's like deja vu. I've been asked to talk primarily this afternoon about further education and higher education. I think I'm qualified to do this. I mean, my background in education, as Jane alluded to, I went through university, a degree, a master's, a certificate in education. I then went on to lecture in the further education college and then finally in a university. So I spent basically virtually all my adult life before being elected in the education sector. And what we found, I believe, is a collapse in quality over the years. The majority or the vast majority of kids now go on at the age of 16 into further education. And I think what we've had is a dumbing down of academic further education. A-levels, when I sat them, were an exam at the end of 2 years hard graft. A-levels now, well, you can resit your coursework as many times as you like. What we've had is a dumbing down, and we now have prizes for all education. And that's not just letting down our education system, it's letting down the youngsters that sit those exams. This year, the government say 98% pass rate. It's a record. You know, they're beginning to sound like Brezhnev in the Soviet era. You know, we've had record wheat production this year, yet people are queuing for bread. It's baloney. Everyone knows it. It's smoke and mirrors. I blame Labour because in 1997, the Labour Party came to power with a policy saying that 50% of all 18-year-olds should go to university. It's now 49%. So they've almost succeeded. 2.5 million kids go to university. Yet let me just tell you these statistics. In the whole of North Liverpool last year, and don't forget Liverpool is a city of 600,000 people, so we're talking around 300,000. You can imagine how many kids and how many schools. Have a guess how many kids last year applied to Oxford or Cambridge. Any guesses? 5. It's an absolute disgrace. Did you know that the top 5 schools in this country send more kids to Oxford and Cambridge than the bottom 2,000 put together? Did you know that there were more working class kids at Oxford and Cambridge in the 1960s than there is now? Something has gone fundamentally wrong. The idea that you should be sending 50% of 18-year-olds to university is fundamentally flawed. Take the European example. The country which sends most 18-year-olds to university in Europe is Greece. The country which sends least is Denmark. Now you tell me which has the more productive economy. It isn't Greece. And as a result of this 50% target, we've had to bring in tuition fees. We have to charge £9,000 per year for our kids to go to university, which is putting off working class families. What I believe we need to do is to reduce the number of students, reduce the number of universities, reduce the number of non-courses, and then we can return to a grant system where the brightest and best kids go to university. And what about those people who won't go to university? I think they should go on and be very productive. I think they should go on and be assets in society. They should be bricklayers, plumbers, hairdressers, electricians. They can go on and do things. Academia is not the be-all and end-all. What we need to do is to have more vocational education in this country. And we need to be more appreciative of vocational education. You know, in Germany, vocational education and academia have parity. They're both seen on the same level. They don't look down their nose at vocational education. And that's why Germany has kept its manufacturing base. We have lost skills in this country, and the only way we're going to get them back is to create more technical colleges and go back to apprenticeships. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. As I said in my speech earlier, UKIP's policies are all about common sense. We believe that exams should be more rigorous. We believe that the number of people going to university should be reduced. We believe that many of the non-courses that youngsters are forced to sit are not conducive for society, because when they leave, the jobs aren't there. We would like to see the number reduced. We would like to see more technical colleges, and we would like to see a greater appreciation of vocational education. That, ladies and gentlemen, is common sense. That, ladies and gentlemen, is UKIP. Thank you very much.